In 2026, whenever we talk about ranged, the conversation is almost always about bows and arrows because bows have completely taken over the meta. But there was once a time where crossbows once ruled the range meta thanks to Bakriminel boats. That reign slowly started to collapse with the release of Elder God arrows and then finally Bow of the Last Guardian, which completely pushed bows to the top. Since then, crossbows have been heavily overshadowed by bows. Following the 2026 combat update, ranged was also reworked to rely far less on critical strikes. So far, most of the testing on my channel has been centered around bows and arrows. But what about old crossbow builds? Today, let's clap our hands and dive back in time to see how crossbow setups actually hold up in modern RuneScape. I'm Wings of Absurdity, a range content creator. Let's find out. I decided to divide the testing into three categories: Ruby backboats with Hydrix backboats, Onyx backboats with Hydrix backboats, and finally, full Hydrix backboat camping. For the setup, I'll be using Elite Seren alongside the new Ruinous crossbows to maintain tier 100 accuracy. Elite Ceramic Set also has a chance to fire one of the three listed Bakriminel boats, and because the set lacks gloves and boots, I'll be using Cinder Beans together with Elite Dragonbane boots. Unfortunately, I'm still capped at tier 90 damage. The alternative would have been using tier 92 crossbows with only tier 92 accuracy, which I didn't want to do. I also perked the setup with Equilibrium just to see how it would perform after the combat update. For comparison, I'll be referencing my previous video where I tested range without switches and hard mode care pack. Those bow setup kill times will be the baseline since I'm testing this at hard mode care pack as well. Right away, I noticed that Ruby Bakriminel bows have aged surprisingly well. Their new effect doesn't seem to add that much damage compared to the old effect. More importantly, I immediately noticed that I couldn't slam skip Carapac in phase 1, which is a very bad sign for what is to come. Because I don't have Deathspores with crossbows, I ended up relying on Hydrix boats as my adrenaline ammo instead. That meant using Time Warp on Imbue Shadow, Greco, and then Death Swiftness. In the end, the kill times honestly felt similar to pre-update bow ranged before all the modern synergies existed. And these were the results. I repeated the testing again using Onyx boats instead, but honestly not much changed. I did get one faster kill, but overall the difference barely felt noticeable. Now Hydrix backboats camping is where things started to feel very different. Even though I still couldn't slam skip Carapac during phase 1, I was able to phase him within a single slam, which actually felt really good. The reason becomes obvious pretty quickly. When you combine Hydrix boats with Imbue Shadow, there's a massive chance to keep spamming more Gloomfire Bows, and when Imbue Shadow is gone, that shot would normally completely drain your adrenaline, but with Hydrix bows constantly giving adrenaline back, I actually barely lost any adrenaline whenever I used that shot. All of that extra adrenaline generation really adds up because I was able to spam more Gloomfire bows extremely frequently. Another example is when I used Imbue Shadow that put me below 50% adrenaline. In some cases, Quicker wouldn't be enough to get me to 100% adrenaline, but with Hydrix backboats, it instantly puts me at 100%, which allowed me to use Death Swiftness. And honestly, the kill time speaks for themselves compared to other setups. But even then, when you compare these results to bow builds, the difference is still close to an entire minute slower, and this is coming from somebody that's using endgame perks and equipment. This goes to show how behind crossbows are, especially when their highest damage tier is 92 when bows are tier 100. And this test is done with tier 90 damage. Another topic that really needs to be discussed when talking about crossbows in 2026 is the ammo consumption. A while back, I made a video discussing how the absurd Elder God era consumption issue was finally fixed. Unfortunately, Bakriminel boats inherited the exact same problem. I initially bought 1,000 Bakriminel boats of each type that I tested with, and in just an hour and 30 minutes of testing, I already consumed a lot of Bakriminel boats. Bakriminel boats used to only be consumed when the special effect activated, but now they follow the universal ammo consumption rule, which makes it feel absolutely horrible compared to the old system. So not only are crossbows already struggling in performance, they inherited one of the worst parts of the old Elder God arrow system: insanely expensive ammo drain. One more thing about the Ruinous crossbows. It does appear you need both crossbows for the Demonbane bonus damage effect to take effect. I tried using offhand and main hand separately with Ascension crossbows, and it looks like only both of the Ruinous crossbows gives me that damage boost. Anyways, if you wondered what the current state of crossbow builds is like in 2026, well, now you know. Thank you for watching, subscribe if you enjoyed, and bye bye.